Crypto as Global Infrastructure 2026 and beyond. By 2026, cryptocurrency had crossed a threshold that few had imagined possible in its early years. What once was dismissed as internet money had quietly transformed into the backbone of a new digital economy. Like the internet itself, crypto was no longer a niche. It was infrastructure, invisible yet everywhere, powering systems that billions relied upon every day. From speculation to utility. In the early days, crypto's story had been dominated by speculation, charts, bull runs, bubbles, and crashes. But as the decade unfolded, that narrative shifted. People began asking not how much Bitcoin costs, but what crypto can do for me. By 2026, payments. Stablecoins like USDC, USDT, and decentralized equivalents had become as common as PayPal or Visa once were. Street vendors in Lagos, ride-hailing apps in Manila, and online freelancers in Buenos Aires all accepted stablecoins directly. Remittances, migrant workers no longer had to pay 10% fees to send money home. Blockchain rails cut that down to pennies. Banking the unbanked. In parts of Africa and Asia, mobile wallets powered by crypto were the only financial tools people needed. For the first time, billions had access to savings, credit, and investments. Crypto had become the plumbing of the global economy, running quietly in the background, while users often didn't even know they were using crypto. The coexistence with CBDC's governments, unwilling to surrender monetary control, had responded with central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. By 2026, China's digital yuan was fully deployed with billions of daily transactions. The EU's digital euro had been launched across member states. Several African and Latin American countries had their own experimental CBDCs. Yet CBDCs never fully displaced crypto. Instead, the two coexisted uneasily. Governments offered CBDCs for stability and compliance, while citizens turned to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stablecoins for freedom, privacy, and borderless access. In some countries, this led to tension. Authorities tried to restrict decentralized currencies, only to find that people used them anyway. In others, hybrid systems emerged, CBDCs operating side by side with regulated stablecoins, all settled through blockchain-based rails. The result? A world where money had multiple layers of sovereignty. Central banks controlled one layer, decentralized protocols controlled another, and individuals chose which to use. Tokenization of everything. By 2026, the term real-world assets, RWAs, had become mainstream. Crypto wasn't just about coins and tokens anymore. It was about representing real-world value on-chain. Property. Real estate markets in Dubai, Miami, and Singapore had billions in tokenized assets. Fractions of buildings could be bought and sold as easily as Bitcoin once was. Commodities. Gold, oil, and even coffee beans were represented as tradable digital tokens. Debt and bonds. Governments issued bonds directly on blockchain networks, reducing costs and attracting global retail investors. Suddenly, the barrier between Wall Street and Main Street was dissolving. Anyone with a smartphone could invest in assets once reserved for billionaires. Crypto had democratized not just money, but ownership itself. The rise of autonomous finance. With the convergence of AI and blockchain, financial systems began to operate autonomously. AI trading bots ran portfolios on DeFi protocols 24/7, rebalancing based on real-time global events. Autonomous organizations, DAOs, governed multi-billion-dollar treasuries with AI agents voting alongside humans. AI auditors monitored smart contracts, detecting fraud and vulnerabilities faster than humans ever could. Finance was no longer fully human-driven. Instead, it was a dance between algorithms, protocols, and people, a cybernetic economy where trust was automated and code was law. Everyday crypto, invisible but essential. By 2026, crypto had seeped into daily life in ways most people barely noticed. Healthcare. Medical records stored on blockchain, ensured patient data was portable, secure, and tamper-proof. Supply chains. From African coffee farms to European supermarkets, blockchain tracked goods from origin to shelf. Consumers could scan a QR code and verify authenticity instantly. Education and identity, diplomas, licenses, and IDs were issued on-chain, eliminating forgery. Refugees could carry their identity across borders with a wallet address. Gaming and entertainment. Millions spent their evenings in blockchain-based metaverses, where NFTs represented skins, gear, and digital land. Play-to-earn evolved into play and live economies. Crypto was no longer something you invested in. It was simply the fabric of digital existence. The philosophical question, can decentralization survive? But as crypto grew into infrastructure, an uneasy question emerged. Was decentralization being sacrificed in the process? Big tech and Wall Street had heavily integrated blockchain, but often on private or semi-centralized versions. Governments tried to exert influence through regulation and partnerships. Foundations and DAOs fought to keep protocols open, neutral, and censorship-resistant. For purists, this was bittersweet. Bitcoin had begun as a rebellion against centralized power. Now, as crypto was woven into the very machinery of global finance and governance, there was a fear. Had the revolution been co-opted? The battle lines were no longer between skeptics and believers. They were between centralization and decentralization, between systems that empowered the few and those that truly gave power to the many. Looking ahead, beyond 2026. By the end of 2026, one thing was clear. The journey of crypto was far from over. Quantum computing threats. The looming shadow of quantum computers forced researchers to push for quantum-resistant cryptography. Interplanetary finance. With the first Mars missions preparing, discussions began on how crypto could serve as currency beyond Earth. Ethical AI plus. Blockchain. Humanity debated how much autonomy to give machines in financial and governance systems. Crypto was no longer about price charts. It was about the architecture of the future world. Conclusion. The transformation of cryptocurrency into global infrastructure marked a turning point in history. It was no longer the dream of a few cypherpunks. It was the daily reality of billions. From payments and property to healthcare and governance, blockchain had become the silent engine of digital civilization. Yet the question lingered. Would the dream of decentralization survive its own success? The story of crypto was not ending. It was only shifting into its most profound chapter yet. A chapter where money, identity, culture, and even governance were being rewritten in code. The world had entered an era where crypto wasn't just a tool. It was the system itself. That's Chapter 16, 3,500 to 4,000 words condensed. How crypto becomes invisible infrastructure shaping money, identity, supply chains, healthcare, and governance, while also raising the decentralization versus centralization debate.